Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by #1 best-selling author, Dr. Alain Salas. Dr. Salas specializes in helping coaches and health professionals get rid of their limiting beliefs and achieve the sought-after prosperity for them and their clients. He is the creator of the mind, body, goal, and success clearing methods. So we're going to be talking to him about everything that he's up to and what he's going to be up to in the future. So, Dr. Salas, thank you so much for joining me today.
Bonjour, Curtis. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Why don't you start
Excellent.
off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, obviously, I've got a little bit of an accent, right? So I was born and raised in south of France. Actually, I used to live on a boat in south of France, and I used to rent boat as a business, right? So I was working like, I would say, 6, 7 months maximum. And the rest of the time I was either like sailing the Mediterranean, but during the winter is not the best, right? So I used to buy a airfare ticket and spending like some few months in the South Hemisphere. I was basically, Curtis, a sun chaser, right? I didn't know what winter is, what snow was for like almost a decade. And so you will think, well, life is great, right? But, one day I had like a revelation, if you want. I saw myself as helping people, right? And so there was nobody in my family who was involved with healthcare or MDs, nurse, or not even like, of course, healing, right? So I started to see, what I can do, and I started to talk to my clients. And one of my clients one time told me, you know what, there's a Chinese doctor is coming to visit me, right? And so why don't you spend a few hours with him and talk to him? I say, yeah, that sounds good. I definitely want to do that. And so Curtis, I definitely met the guy. He gave me like 3 books to read, and he said, when you're done with the season, with work, I want you to come and visit me. I will give you treatment and we'll talk. And sure enough, I did. Really enjoy the books. And I started to inquire about Chinese medicine. And he told me, you know what, if you want to do the same that I did, because you really know what you're talking about, right? And what really Chinese medicine is about, you need to go to China, you need to learn Chinese. And I said, how long is it going to take? He said, well, kind of 10 years. And I said, oh man, I'm like, 30 years old. I just want to practice one day, right? And so he looked at me and he said, you know what? You look strong. Why not chiropractic? And I said, what's that? So sure enough, he gave me some information of people like from France who went to basically to America to learn chiropractic. And so I did get the information, get the school information. And there was something that was fascinating about the philosophy they described, Curtis, and the thing was called the innate intelligence. Innate intelligence, your own ability to heal yourself, right? And this was fascinating to me. And so, sure enough, I went, to the school, get my first treatment. That, like a woman that was a student there, really helped me a lot, and I loved it. And I said, okay, let's do this. So they used to call me the gypsy at that time because I had long hair, hearing, I was partying all night and all that. And so imagine, Curtis, when I told my parents, well, you know what, I'm going to America and I'm going to become a doctor. So that was, they really laughed at me, right? And so I did, and I graduate, 3 years later. And here's the first part of my story, Curtis.
Okay, well, tell us about your mind, body, goal, and success clearing method.
So, Curtis, lots of time we just came up with something, or create is a big word that I think we rediscover truly, but things because of our life circumstances, right? And so when I graduate, I was treating people, right? And they will get better, but very soon they will plateau. And to maintain the plateau, they will have to come to see me. So I thought there was something that could be better, right? And because I know for sure one thing's in life, if you got a problem in life and you can have like a health problem, a relationship problem, you name it, a prosperity problem even, right? So if you got a problem in life, Curtis, you need to know two things. Number one, you need to know what's causing your problem, right? If you don't know what's causing your problem, how can you truly fix it, right? And the second thing is, you need to know how to fix it. So I was thinking, like, if the people still have to come to see me and they don't get any better, but just to maintain the progress they are in, well, maybe we didn't find out really what was causing the cause of problem, and or maybe we didn't know how to fix it. So I started to investigate, what they call inflammation, right? Which is basically your chemical stress, right? And so, if you will have a problem, for example, and you think it's chemical stress, you will come, or chronic disease, and you will come to see me, Curtis, and I will check your body by using muscle testing, meaning that, I use your muscle power, and when you get weak, it means you've got some stress. So I will check basically, all the main organ in your body and what's causing the stress in those organs that we call inflammation. And I made a big practice out of it, right? So I had like 4 employees, and I was basically seeing like 250 patients a week, right? And so I taught some of my employees how to do different things to assist me, right? So everything was fine. I'm a French guy, and I was living the American dream, right? I had the big house, best neighborhood, and all that in Kansas City, right? But there's something in life that, when everything you think you got it, now this is it, nice and easy, like let's cruise from now on. Well, life sometimes, bring you back to some kind of reality in a way, or some kind of things that, hey, maybe that's not it for you. We need more out of you. And so basically that's what happened. So within a year, here's what happened to me, Curtis. So number one, because I was like thinking I was doing the right thing, right? So my mind was focused on helping people, right? And all that. But here's the problem. It was so imbalanced, right? Meaning that when I was done working, I will go home, but I was there, but I was not present for my family. At that time, I met a French woman in a bar in Kansas City, and we got a daughter named Maya, right? And we got married. And so soon enough, of course, my relationship went down the drain, right? And so within a year, I ended up divorcing, right? And I'm telling you, when you've got a kid, it's never a handshake for sure. And that was number one, right? Number two, because I was so burned out and I was a mess, right? So my head, I couldn't focus, and I lost my clarity, even my juice, to help people, which I cannot believe I'm saying that. And basically, what happened, my practice went from thriving to failing, right? And so, and the cherry on the cake, if I can say that, was like basically I got diagnosed with early stage of colon cancer, right? So here I am, supposed to recommend, my patient how to avoid this kind of disease, to decrease the inflammation in the body, and I'm diagnosed with a second killer in this country, right? So I had like I was like, what the heck? What the heck happened really? And so I had to rethink everything about myself, about my health, my relationship, my prosperity, and I had to redefine who I was also as a doctor, because it didn't work for me, right? And so, but I knew deep inside, Curtis, like there was like something within me that was pushing me to sabotage my health, to sabotage my relationship, and to sabotage my prosperity. So I literally went on a quest, and following the principle that you have to find what's causing the problem and how to fix it. So for the physical stress, I had the chiropractic things. I created an energy technique to really help my patients. So I was okay with that, right? I had good result treating people physically. Now, chemically, what I found out, it's like when you supercharge the body with oxygen, really good things happen, and especially with cancer cell, actually, because cancer cells, they don't lack oxygen. They thrive in what we call acidic environment. And so when you give them oxygen, it's like the equivalent of a vampire looking at the sun, right? And so they will die very quickly. So anyway, that helped me to help myself naturally from the cancer, right? And after I say, okay, well, we need to talk about the mind, right? What's about my emotion and the feeling that I've got and my mental status, right? And so I started to learn some emotional technique and basically what happened, Curtis, it's like, I was doing things, I was helping people. I will tell them, oh, you've got neck pain, and a part of it's because you do have some emotion trap on your neck, right? And that's what giving you the problem and the pain. It's a part of the cause, right? But still, I was not in my, I didn't feel that that was really the answer. So I started to really go deeper and study the mind. And what I discover, Curtis, is mind blowing. And it's crazy because that information is very accessible. You can Google all what I'm saying, and you will find the same answer, right? And so the first thing that I realized, it's like, because I was thinking we've got a mind-body connection, right? Everybody is talking about that, but what really is the mind, right? And so it's kind of the first things that I noticed. It's like we're living in a two separate world at the same time. So what do I mean by that? I mean, there's two worlds, right? There's kind of like two minds in a way. So you've got the outer world, right? Which is basically the outside world, right? So it's basically who you think you are, right? Your personality, what we call your self-identity, right? And so what you think you can do, what you think you cannot achieve. It's also what you're aware of. Basically, it's like your thought, your emotion, your behavior, your action, and all that, right? So basically, what you're aware of, to make it very simple. And after there's another mind, and we're going to call that the subconscious mind. And that subconscious mind is totally, it's like a secret, right? We don't know truly what's going on there. The only thing, I mean, there's something that we know for sure. For example, your subconscious mind record everything you have been doing, Curtis, from age 0 to now. Everything is stored there in that subconscious mind. Also, the subconscious mind is where your skills as a podcaster, skill as whatever you do in life, right, are stored, right? But it's also all the automatic process in your body, like breathing, like your heartbeat and all that are stored also, right? So I was like very intrigued by that subconscious mind. And so there's two things that I want your audience to realize about those two minds. So, for example, the conscious mind process data at 11 bits per second, right? The subconscious mind process data at 11 million bits per second. So it's 1 million times more powerful, right? So when I started to see that, I said, boy, that subconscious mind, we really need to see really what's going on there. And the second thing, I'm going to tell you something and to your audience. If you guys are standing up, please sit down, because what I'm about to tell you, that's going to shock you. It did shock me, really, and I'm still cannot believe it in a way, right? And if you if you sit up, buckle up, right? And so that's going to redefine what I'm going to tell you. That's going to redefine who you think you are, right, as a human being. So here's the thing, Curtis. Let's show that. So number one, your conscious mind, according to who you're reading, it's only 5 or 10% of your mind. I repeat, your conscious mind, who you think you are, your self-identity, is only 5 or 10% of your mind. Therefore, your subconscious mind, right, which is your subconscious mind, right, where you're not aware of what really was going on there, is 90 to 95% of your mind. So basically, when we're talking about healing, transformation, and growth, we focus only on 5 or 10% of our mind, which is our conscious mind, right? So it means, in other words, we're using 5 or 10% of our mind power, or 5 or 10% of our brain power, right? So I was thinking, hey, what if we start to use, our subconscious mind? What if we bring the subconscious mind to the party, right? Would it be nice? Does it make sense to you, Curtis?
Yes, it absolutely does.
So that was my quest, definitely, Curtis, right? And so I said, okay, how can we use that, right? And I used to travel a lot, Curtis, in different countries. And the thing that was the most frustrating during my travels was when I was like, there was like a fellow that, a man or woman that I wanted to interact with because they seems to be nice and I don't know, and things like that. But what was so hard for me, so frustrating, is like when I was not speaking the same language, right? And so that was really frustrated. And I thought to myself, well, you know what, Alan, we need to speak the same language but the subconscious mind. So now the question, does the subconscious mind communicate with us? You bet you, all the time when we remember our dreams. When you remember your dreams, right? What do you remember always? That always come with a dream is a picture, a serial picture, right? I never had Curtis. Anybody told me, you know what, Dr. Salas? I remember only the smell of my dream. Doesn't make any sense, right? You just have to anchor the dream with a picture. So I say, oh, the way to communicate to the subconscious mind is via pictures. And probably that's how the subconscious mind stores data. That's why it's so much powerful, right? Because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I'm not even including all the symbolism that can be in that picture, right? So I started to play with that, right, and try to help my patient for if they had pain, if they had some symptom in their body, and see how we can get rid of them just by using their mind, right? Because that's why we are so powerful, Curtis. We don't realize how powerful we are because we think that we have been told we are only our self-identity. Right? So what do I mean by that? Well, if you zoom out, let's zoom out to really what's going on here. So visualize the sun, and the sun is God. The sun is awareness, whatever you want to call it, depends your belief. It doesn't matter. That's the divine, right? And after a spark of the sun, create your spirit, right? And after you've got your spirit and the sun, and this is all pure love, if you want. This is all what has been and will ever be. There's no duality. There's no good and bad. This is amazing, right? So, and your spirit is included in it. And after you've got the sky, and there's some cloud in your sky, right? And after you've got your physical self, like, Curtis with your physical body and me with my physical body, right? And so some people, they've got so many clouds, Curtis, that they say, there's no, there's no sun. The sun doesn't exist. Never felt it. There's no sun. There's no divine. Doesn't exist. And so what are those clouds, right, that are preventing us to see the sun, to feel the sun? And so those are the limiting beliefs, right? So what are the limiting beliefs? They are programmed in the subconscious mind. So when we start to deprogram your subconscious mind, we start to get rid of a cloud. And after finally we can have a glimpse on the sun, of the sun if you never see it, right? And you can start to feel the warmth of the sun, right? And you say, man, and you start to get more connected to your spirit, right? And that's how after everything changed, because you realize that you are not only your self-identity, you are a spirit living a physical experience.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay, everybody, it's Michael E. Cullen II.
And I'm Sesame and Carta from the All Too Real 2 podcast. We're passionate about movies, TV, and pretty much all things pop culture.
Dive into the chaos of failed sitcoms, direct-to-video sequels, and the quirky realms of cinema and TV.
Join us every Thursday for your dose of All Too Real 2 entertainment.
We'll guide you through debates like whether Howard the Duck qualifies as a superhero.
Ponder if Larry the Cable Guy could be the new Rock or Schwarzenegger.
Discover if some shows and movies should have stayed in the cutting room.
Ever heard of a sitcom featuring that dictator with the funny mustache? Well, we watched it.
We're dedicated to unraveling the peculiarities of pop culture, sometimes with awesome guests.
So, if you're into the eccentric world of pop culture,
listen and subscribe to All Too Real 2.
Available wherever you find podcasts
and on Age of Radio.
Okay, well, talk about the 3 steps that you talk about in your bio to eliminate, negative beliefs.
Okay, so just before, let's explain how we get programmed, right? Because lots of people don't know that they are programmed, and we all are. You, Curtis, you are. I am. Everybody on Earth are programmed. So how does it work? Let's pretend like, especially when we are kids from age 0 to 7 to 8 years old, right? So we assume that everything in life, what we see in the outside world, is like for our highest good, right? Because we are innocent, right? And so that's what we think. So we assume things, and we assume things like, if you repeatedly assume the same thing, it's become a program that is stored in your subconscious mind. So Curtis, you've got two kind of program. You've got some program that serve you, right? It's kind of your mind is working for you instead of against you, right? So those are called empowering belief, right? And so basically, this is like, those programs are serving you. That's great. You want to keep those, right? Of course. And after they've got some other program, and those programs are not serving you any longer. They maybe serve you for a while, but they're not serving you any longer. And those are negative programming, right? And we call that limiting belief. And it's kind of your mind is working against us, right? So we all have experience sometimes that our mind is not working for us, right? We say, why am I still acting like this? This is crazy, but I cannot help it. So let me give an example to the audience, how does it work? So let's pretend there's a little girl that see her dad, that is an alcoholic, come back every night drunk and beat up his wife. So her mom. So my question to you, Curtis, is what do you think that little girl's going to attract as a romantic relationship down the road when she's older? What do you think?
He's going to think that's acceptable.
Yes, she's going to attract the same abusive relationship at least, right? And so now there's few things, and I think, Curtis, there's probably 80% of the people, maybe even more, 90% of people who agree with us, right? But let me make a couple of comments on that. So comment number one. Well, if I ask that woman now, right, she's not a little girl anymore, she's in that abusive relationship, and if you ask her, you say, hey, by the way, do you enjoy to get beat up by your man? She's going to say, heck no. So the conscious mind is going to say no. But here we go. The subconscious mind has been programmed as men are predators and women are prey. So now there's another question that came up in my mind. I said, how she's going to attract that man? How she's going to do it? Right? She's going to shake a man's hand and say, hey, can you come here and beat me up? Of course not, right? That's not how it's going to work, right? So it's kind of like, if you want, Curtis, our subconscious mind are connected, right? They are connected to each other. That's why some people say that we are all one, right? Because the subconscious mind are connected. And the way it works, her subconscious mind, that woman's subconscious mind is going to, because they can read each other because they are connected, right? It's going to say, oh, this guy's going to do. Why? Because he has been bullied and now he's a bully. So he's got that predator program. And that subconscious mind of a man is going to say, oh, that woman's going to do it for me because she's got the prey program and I can bully her. And so they've got to fall in love, right? And they're going to fall in love and they're going to start that tango, that dance together because of the polarity of prey and predator. So there's actually 3 different case scenario that can happen to that woman. The woman, case scenario number 1, well, she's going to marry the guy, right? And get stuck with that guy for the rest of her life. We all know or have heard of such a relationship, right? Case scenario number 2, Curtis. What may happen is like she's going to go with a guy for sure. And after she's going to say, oh, I cannot, it's too much. I get beat up all the time. And so she's going to find another guy that, is going to have his own style of abusive, pattern, and another guy, and maybe have kids along the way, lots of suffering for sure. And so there's two ways that this can end, right? And so I talk to those women, and the first reaction that they say is this, Curtis. They say, "Hey, you know what, Dr. Salas, don't talk to me about men anymore. I don't want any more men in my life, right?" I mean, it's kind of like, there's a fire. You put your finger in the fire, you get burned once. You put your finger again, you get burned twice. You say, okay, I'm not going to put my finger on the fire, right? But we can heal from our life experiences, right? And so the true healing for that woman will be, oh, now I'm attracting somebody that is kind to me, respectful, that see me as an equal, right? And so, and love me like the way I deserve to be loved as a human being, right? And so that's really the true healing that will happen. And so that's case scenario number 2, sir. And case scenario number 3, she can come and see somebody like me, right, that can speak the same language but the subconscious mind, right? Remember, with a picture, right? So speak the same language, and we can do the 3 step of a mind clearing. So the first step is what? When you've got a program, let's compare your mind as a computer, right? So your brain is the hard drive. Your software is the subconscious mind. The output of a software is your conscious mind. And your behavior is reflected, on the screen of life. So if you got good program, like, you don't have too many limiting beliefs, right? So you ask me, Curtis, you ask me, oh, Dr. Salas, how is life treating you? I say, man, never better. Life is great. I love my screen of life. I mean, let's not change anything, right? But if I've got lots of limiting belief, lots of negative program in that software, right? And Curtis, you're gonna ask me how life is treating you. I say, oh man, it's a struggle. I always feel stuck. I don't do anything. I get, and everybody's against me, and blah 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 blah, right? And so, what you want when you've got a program that doesn't work for you in the computer? What do? Well, you delete it, right? So you're gonna delete your limiting belief, right? And it's a program that I created, but customized to you. So you are going to be the one healing yourself in a way. You're going to send that deleting program in that picture, right? And so after I will say, when we delete who's limiting belief, well, you're just going to have to replace by empowering one. So basically, you delete what you don't want and you download what you want. And the step 2, it's like to download what you want. So I will say, visualize a picture of the opposite of that limiting belief, like what you don't want. And that's going to be your empowering belief. And after number 3, remember the screen of life. We want to make sure that you can create now what you want, to get the result that you want, because you don't have that limitation any longer, right? So you want to make sure that you create that into your life, right? And so those are the 3 steps of a mind clearing.
Okay, so tell us about your books, what listeners can expect when they read them, and where we can get them from.
Well, the books is actually, the books was created 10 years ago. So it's about it's called The Brain Power Secret. So I was studying the brain, right? But I soon realized that our thoughts are not in our brain. We can rewire our brain because of our thinking, but it's not in the brain. Like I said, the brain is only the hard drive, right? It's not the mouse moving. It's not the guy, moving the computer, right? Moving the mouse on the screen. And so, which are our thought, right? And so basically the way to see that, let's pretend there's a, my dad told me I'm a loser. So visualize a triangle, and inside the triangle, there's the limiting belief, right? And my limiting belief in, okay, I'm a loser. So on top of a triangle, it's your thought. So I'm going to think I'm a loser, right? And so negative thought, right? On the right side base of the triangle, that's going to be your emotion, right? And that's going to be overwhelming emotion, right? So I'm going to feel like I'm a loser. And on the left side, based on the triangle, it's like your behavior and action. So if I feel I'm a loser, I'm going to behave like a loser. So the result is going to be not very good, right? It's going to be loser action, right? And so on what's going to make me feel even more like a loser, I'm going to think, man, I knew I was a loser, but that bad, it's really bad. So we caught up on this loop running into in our subconscious mind, in the back of our mind, literally, and just making us behave and think, feel, and behave and act in a certain way. Until those programs are there, we cannot. We just stuck on those programming, right? I call that a subconscious stress loop, and we stop on all those loop. So it's kind of the way to see that. It's kind of in one way, it's like our past, because those limiting beliefs, remember, the way we are programmed is from our past challenge, past trauma that we experience, and they are creating those loops that are running us. So basically, here's the thing, Curtis, and what people don't realize. It's like our past belief, right, are dictating our present and shaping our future. So the only way, I mean, the most efficient way to change our present and future is to clear our negative, challenges, our trauma that you have, all the things that are in our past that are basically holding us, right? Prevent us to reach our highest potential and be the best version of ourselves. So there's two things. If they mention your podcast, Curtis, is this. The first things, you go to my website. It's called themindclearing.com. Again, themindclearing.com. And what happened, you go into contact, and there's a form there that you can fill in, or you've got an email that you can contact me. So if they come from your, basically mention your podcast name, right? They will get 20% off of treatment. So what do you mean by treatment? I say, well, do you think we can treat, do you think that your mind can create pain in your body? You bet. I treat that every day. Do you think that your mind can create symptoms in your body? Yes. Do you think that your mind can create inflammation in your body? Of course. And this is what I describe is what I call the body clearing, right? Which is about getting rid of your pain, symptom, and inflammation. And after, Curtis, do you think that your mind can prevent you to reach your goal or achieve your highest potential? You bet you, of course. And so I created what I call the quantum transformation loop, right? Just to make sure that we bring the subconscious mind to the party as far as taking steps to reaching your goal, right? And so that's the goal and success, right? So if they want to learn the basic mind clearing, number 2, the goal clearing, and number 3, the goal and success clearing, if you take the entire package, you will have 50% off. Because, we can talk about that forever, Curtis, but, true experience is about, true experience thing is true knowledge. And so, again, we can talk about that, but until you experience the work, and so if you've got pain, has been there forever, right? And 70 to 80% of my patients will be totally gone and never come back within two treatment, right? So, of course, you experience very good result because you use 90 to 95% of your mind power that you couldn't have access before. You couldn't talk the same language. And so basically, mind clearing is giving you the technology, and some of my help with guidance to be able to use your mind to heal yourself. And when you empower people to heal themselves, I call that the holy grail of healing. There's no better than that.
Okay, well, tell us about any upcoming projects that you're working on that people need to know about.
Well, I'm doing lots of podcasts, Curtis, because I want to write the book. And so the way, people host react and what people tell me they like what they heard and things like that, that's going to be for my upcoming book. And it's about to teach people how to treat themselves if they want, because it's not only about coaches and health professionals, that definitely want to go deeper and make sure that they can help and empower their clients to get deep transformation, healing, and growth, right? But it's also for lay people like you, if you want to learn it for yourself, to empower yourself, to become a better person, to heal yourself, or to heal your loved one, right? And help your loved one to use 100% of their mind, you can learn it. So I think that's great, when you empower people to heal themselves.
Okay, we'll throw out your website one more time.
themindclearing.com, you go under contact. There's a form there that will show up. You can fill in if you want to contact me for whatever, the 20% off, the 50% off. And there's a ton of information in that website because, doctor at the roots means teacher, right? And so for me, it's very important to educate people. themindclearing.com, Dr. Alain Salas.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so please go there and take advantage of this deal. Follow, rate, review, share this to as many people as possible. Jump on your favorite podcast app, leave us a review, check out the show, share it. Check out the new website for the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast at www.curveball337.com. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. Dr. Salas, thank you for all that you're doing to make the world a better place, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Curtis. Greatly appreciated for you having me.
For more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, visit www.curveball337.com. Until next time, keep living the dream.